The second part is your, so I'm continuing with the transcription unit and the gene. I'm trying to give the similarity. The comparison is, we are saying transcription unit is a part of DNA. Okay, so it is also the gene. The gene meaning to say it is the functional unit of inheritance. But if that inheritance has to express, then it is a transcription unit. So it is all similar, but the terms are given in a way. We are talking about in terms of expression, in terms of your function, the process behind it. So this is structurally, this is your, you can say, based on the features or the morphology. Okay, so the gene character has to be finally expressed. Expressed process is done by the transcription unit. So the gene term is clear, that is your functional unit of inheritance. Transcription unit is clear, so it is the part of DNA that is responsible to produce RNA, and ultimately RNA is the one which will produce proteins. So this is how the process is shown. Okay, the process is shown, whereas gene, we are talking about how character is shown. Okay, both are same, but we are talking about one difference we are keeping is gene, we are just talking a name of the character, but the process behind how it is explained or how it is expressed is shown in the transcription unit. It begins from there. So you have to know when a transcript is ready. So you just recalling back. So this is your RNA transcript. Okay, this RNA transcript may produce one polypeptide. When I say one polypeptide, it may produce one polypeptide or it may produce separately. Now imagine there is a long mRNA that is produced. Okay, and this mRNA has your one is till here, it codes for A protein, then till here B protein. This structural gene is actually over here, which is having A and B protein. So this is production of more than one protein, right? So this is what we are saying. Your whatever gene, the term we show in your segment of DNA is cistron. Okay, the whole transcription unit, we can modify the term gene in relation with transcription unit, calling it cistron. So what is cistron? A segment of DNA coding for a polypeptide. Based on the number of polypeptides produced, we say monocistronic, polycistronic. So monocistronic you will find mostly in your eukaryotes. So even we come under that. So our gene, only one polypeptide is produced from one gene. So it is monocistronic. In case of bacteria, protozoans, so there are certain cases where we are saying it is polycistronic. Now why polycistronic? I am talking about polypeptide which is produced more than one. Okay, so the term is clear about the gene and the transcription unit. So whatever the transcript you get in case of eukaryotes is not the complete or it is not the pure mRNA. We say it is heterogeneous. The meaning of heterogeneous means mixture of both your coding as well as non-coding DNA. So when I say the monocistronic structural gene, okay, is split, I mean to say it consists of exon, it consists of introns. Just let me show you the picture first. This is your whole DNA. So it's DNA shown. There is your promoter, there is your structural gene, there is your terminator gene. Now in this, your transcript, which is not functional. Why we are saying non-functional? Can you see in between? It's written intron. These are non-coding. Exon, it is coding. So we are talking about the final that is only exons should be there and introns should be removed. Okay, only if exons are kept together I can produce my final protein. This is why we are saying over here it is split gene. In eukaryotes the DNA is split. This is one whole gene, but we are calling it as the split gene. Why? It is split with non-coding regions. When I say non-coding regions, I am talking in terms of RNA transcript, heterogeneous RNA, or you can say pre-mRNA. So I hope you got some idea. Intron means it doesn't code for amino acid, hence you won't get the proper protein. So the intron should be removed. All these introns should be removed, exons should be kept together, then finally the protein can be produced. This is called as the functional mRNA, and then only you get the final protein. So you all got the idea of split genes. Okay, so that's what you have to remember. Monocistronic structural genes have interrupted coding sequences. When I say interrupted, coding is exon, interrupted with non-coding, that is introns. Okay, so you have to remember this. That's why we are saying after the processing it will not be present. Introns will not be present in the processed mRNA, whereas your exons, they will be present in the processed mRNA. So you're getting some idea here. So how that intron is removed? There is a splicing process. Okay, we pinch off. It is not it is cellular activity. So the intron gets pinched off. Okay, it is thrown out, pinched and thrown out. Finally you get the functional mRNA. Okay, which is all exon. So I hope it is clear. So these two exons are fused, intron is spliced out, and then finally you get the functional mRNA. So first you should know, before we go into the detail of the process of transcription, you should know the types of RNA which we are going to come across. Okay, so we are studying first about the production of mRNA. So there are usually the three types of RNAs present in the eukaryotes: mRNA, tRNA, rRNA. Based on the name, messenger RNA, tRNA is transfer, then rRNA ribosomal. Their function for all three, if you say common function, is synthesize the protein. But individually, what is their task? Their task is here. mRNA provides the template. When I say template, it provides the sequence of DNA to produce protein. Okay. Then tRNA is the one which will bring the amino acid. It will first see the genetic code. Genetic code I'll be explaining next class. So you will understand much better there. So tRNA is the one who brings the amino acid based on the genetic code. Then there is your rRNA, which is your catalytic in the whole translation process. Okay, why it is structurally you will understand better in translation process, which will come in the future classes. So see that you are understanding the basic, what the types of RNAs that are present in eukaryotes, what is the common function, and what are their tasks. Okay, so today we are just studying about the mRNA, how it is produced, and what is its role. You'll understand as we study in detail now. So this is just a picture to give you a better idea. The mRNA single-stranded, tRNA which is single-stranded forms the loops stem. Stem is double-stranded and paired. Loops unpaired. Whereas your rRNA, it is half proteinaceous, half containing your RNA. So that's why we say it is catalytic in nature. Now let us go in detail with the 5-mark question, the process of transcription. The first one is initiation step, then it is your elongation, and finally termination. Just similar to your DNA replication, even here we are using the 3 steps to begin, to make a long chain, and then to end the process. So here I've just given an idea. There is your RNA polymerase, the light colored, the direction of reading the template strand. So the template strand is here, DNA antisense strand, and you can see the direction how the mRNA is produced, 5' to 3'. So I hope it is clear. Using the antisense strand, we are getting the mRNA. Let's go in detail. DNA dependent RNA polymerase is the first enzyme which you have to remember. Why DNA dependent? Yes, of course. It is on DNA, RNA is produced, right? And RNA polymerase is reading DNA to produce RNA. That's why we say the enzyme DNA dependent RNA polymerase enzyme. And what is the main function of it? It catalyzes transcription process. Okay? Transcription of all types of RNA in bacteria. We are now starting with prokaryotes. It is similar in case of eukaryotes. You will understand where the change occurs. Okay, in case of eukaryotes, you will understand later where the change is. All 3 steps which we are studying now under the process, it is similar in prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Except at the end stage where you will understand later why it is different. Let me continue how the initiation begins. There is something called sigma factor. We show the representation like this, the sigma. Okay, this sigma factor, also called initiation factor, will have to be first released. Only after it is released, the polymerase can bind. RNA polymerase can bind. This is from your textbook, and this is the one which we are doing the diagram for the final exam. So see that you are studying only this diagram. I am not giving any other diagrams for you. Otherwise it will make you more confused. So I'll follow the textbook diagram. Observe what is happening here. There is a sigma factor, right? The sigma factor will be released. Then only the reading can take place. So observe what is happening. Sigma factor was there initially. It got released and then it starts reading. So mRNA is produced. Your RNA transcript is getting produced. Okay. So only after the release of sigma factor we can start the reading of the antisense strand. How does it end? You will understand one by one. So you got the idea about sigma factor. So only after it is released, polymerase can bind to the promoter region, and this initiates the transcription. Is it clear? Just see that you are interchanging these 2 points. I have written up and down. Then, elongation step. You should know what this RNA polymerase do. Of course, the substrates taken from the cytoplasm, from your nucleoplasm, is nucleoside triphosphate. When I say nucleoside triphosphate, I hope you remember your ATP, GTP. Here now we are talking about UTP. Okay, there is uracil that is coming in picture. So you'll understand one by one. So if the template strand has A, there is your U that will be paired. If it is T, then it is A. Then rest all it is the same. C and C, G, like that. So I hope you got the idea about how the polymerase will use the nucleoside triphosphate. Okay, so uridine triphosphate we say for uracil, and that will help in the production of the new strand. Which new strand? RNA transcript. So I'm talking about RNA transcript in the direction 5' to 3'. So it is the RNA polymerase which is doing another action. What is that another action? Facilitates the opening of helix. Okay, and then it checks the elongation of RNA continues. So you can observe the picture here. the RNA polymerase is moving in the direction 3' to 5' of DNA. As it is moving, there is one short strand attached to the RNA polymerase over here. And if you observe, RNA is produced in the direction 5' to 3'. Okay. So this is your elongation step. So your direction is here. A short stretch of RNA remains bound to the enzyme is clear. This is also clear. Opening of the helix to continue elongation. And very importantly, what is the function of RNA polymerase? To polymerize the RNA strand, we are using the substrate nucleoside triphosphate. So how does it get polymerized? Following the rule of complementarity. Then comes your termination, how it ends. So as it reaches to the terminator region of the DNA, nascent RNA, what do you mean by nascent? It is non-functional here, okay? It is not functional. So in case of bacteria, it is functional. Remember, in case of bacteria, it is functional RNA, which we directly call it as the name mRNA. But in case of eukaryotes, we call it as nascent RNA, or the word RNA transcript. We have given the word here, RNA transcript. So it is just to say what that is a product of your transcription. Once it falls off, what happens? So as soon as the polymerase reaches the terminator region, RNA will separate, the RNA strand. Even RNA polymerase will separate. Okay, and how is this possible? With the help of two important steps which are done separately. Okay, so there is one step that is depending on a termination factor. So it is called as row dependent termination step, or it can follow the row independent termination where row factor doesn't come into the picture. Okay, so by itself it undergoes certain formations. Okay, so imagine if this is the RNA, it forms itself the loops, stems, so that it forms like a bulk region and terminates and then finally gets released. Not important for you, you just remember row dependent means it involves the termination factor to terminate the transcription. Row independent means it doesn't involve the termination factor. So row is represented like this. Please remember, this is row. Designation or the symbol is shown here. And this is your row factor that is attached to RNA polymerase to separate from the DNA strand, and the RNA transcript also gets separated, and this is your termination process. So I hope it is clear. Now coming to the two additional complexities. Now I am talking about the difference from prokaryotes. What is the difference in eukaryotes you observe? So whatever we are saying about the process of transcription, you have to remember there are three types of polymerase in case of eukaryotes. And in this, we are talking about your RNA polymerase 3 in your transcription process previously. But remember, it is not just one, there are even others. So as the RNA polymerase 3 is doing its work, there is RNA polymerase 1, here it is RNA polymerase 2. That is, RNA polymerase 2 is important for your transcription, whereas RNA polymerase 3 and RNA polymerase 1 is involved for your next process. Okay, that is for your, especially for your translation. So it has to be prepared. So they are doing their work. RNA polymerase 2 is doing the work, that is transcription. So whatever transcript we are getting is non-functional. Non-functional mRNA we call it as hnRNA, that is heterogeneous nuclear RNA. So the another name, precursor of mRNA. Okay, so precursor of mRNA, RNA transcript. Okay, RNA transcript. I cannot write the word here. So RNA transcript or precursor of mRNA. The important name, both are called as heterogeneous nuclear RNA or hnRNA. So that is what RNA polymerase 2 does. So there is other polymerases which have their own work. So RNA polymerase 1 transcribes rRNAs of different sediment units or Swedenborg units. If you remember what is Swedenborg, it is based on sedimentation. Swedenborg had found out about the sediments. So you have understood what polymerase 1 does. RNA polymerase 3 is responsible for transcribing tRNA, 5S rRNA, snRNAs. So remember all this. So snRNA is expanded here. 1 mark question. Small nuclear RNAs. Now these we are not going in detail study, but what we are saying is it is a complex action in case of eukaryotes in the nucleus. So there are 3 new polymerases that is present and they have their own work. That is why we are saying clear-cut division of labor. They do their work on time. Then the second complexity is your converting the transcript into functional your mRNA. So it was actually non-functional. The transcript is non-functional. Why it is non-functional? Because of the presence of introns. Okay, so intervening sequences, they are interrupting the exons, they are interrupting the gene. That is why we call the DNA as the split gene. mRNA, what you got is heterogeneous because of the presence of introns. We call it as heterogeneous mixture. So now we are talking about the processes that are undergone for the transcript, RNA transcript, to become functional. So what is that? First one you should know. There is capping, there is splicing, and there is tailing. So remember 3 terms. I am telling in order. This I have written in case of your textbook, but I am telling you in order. There is your capping, there is your splicing, and then there is your tailing. One by one you observe here. Splicing means introns are removed, exons are joined. So that is one important thing. 2 more things are there. Capping is to the 5' end there is methyl guanosine triphosphate, an unusual nucleotide. There is a cap. Methyl. Why methyl? So that no other nucleotide is joined. No other nucleotide is joined. That's why methyl guanosine triphosphate. At which end? 5' end of hnRNA, the pre-mRNA. Then there is your third step, tailing. At the 3' end, there is continuous adenylate or adenosine triphosphate added up. So we call it as adenylate residues. How many in number? Not 1 or 2, 200 to 300 in number. Once all these process is complete, splicing, capping, tailing is complete, this hnRNA is said to be processed to functional mRNA. Then only the mRNA then comes out, okay, from the nucleus for translation. Remember, translation occurs in the cytoplasm. Transcription occurs in the nucleus. So all this process will occur in nucleus of the cell. Whereas your mRNA 2 proteins, which is called as translation, will occur in cytoplasm. So this is another, I am just showing DNA transcription. We get your RNA transcript. RNA transcript also called precursor mRNA or hnRNA. Now what is happening to this hnRNA? It undergoes 3 modifications. that is your first capping, splicing and tailing. Then only you will get the functional mRNA. So I hope it is clear. This is the diagram you have to follow for the exam. If they ask the question, transcription in eukaryotes, okay, if the question is asked, transcription in eukaryotes, then the answer is here. You can see here, it's written eukaryotes. This is only the diagram. If the question is asked, transcription in prokaryotes, then you have to draw this one. Okay, transcription in prokaryotes. So I hope you have got the idea. Explanation part is the same. Explanation, these three, initiation, elongation, termination is same. But what is different? In eukaryotes, we are adding two complexities. So two additional complexities. One is the three types of RNA polymerases. Okay, you have to write these three. And you're talking about the conversion of transcript, RNA transcript to functional mRNA. So we call that hnRNA undergo capping, splicing and tailing. Okay, so this is how hnRNA converts to functional mRNA. So I hope it is clear. Once it is ready, it goes out of the nucleus and waits for translation to begin. It doesn't wait much because it is degradable. mRNA is degradable within a short lifespan. So immediately as soon as it comes to cytoplasm, translation occurs, which I'll explain in the next classes. So this part you have clear. This is the diagram which I tell you have to draw for eukaryotes because it's showing the two additional complexities, but in that two we are talking about the three main steps which is important for the functional mRNA to be present. Okay, two additional complexities you have to write down. In this, the diagram is showing only the second complexity, that is how your hnRNA gets converted to mRNA, which is a functional one. hnRNA is your non-functional. So I hope the terms are clear. So your poly A tail or addition of adenylate tail or adenylate residues, we call it as polyadenylation process. Okay, remember, capping is adding methyl guanosine triphosphate at the 5' end. So all this can be asked for 1 mark question. What is splicing? Removal of introns, joining of exons. So it's all clear to you. Now you should know about the significance of these two complexities. We are going back to the history. So this split gene arrangement, we are trying to feature the ancient genome. Okay, so when we are saying ancient genome, we are going back to the RNA world. So the presence of introns or the junk DNA, we say, it is a reminiscent of antiquity. What do you mean by reminiscent of antiquity? It implies that introns were previously in past, okay, which were an important piece of information. They used to form the mRNA, but at present it is of no importance. At present it is of no importance. That's why we say we are just giving a significance back to the ancient world, ancient genome. So it is called as reminiscent of antiquity. So we are saying the process of splicing represents the dominance of RNA world. So we are using DNA, okay, to get the genetic information and then bringing the information into RNA. From DNA we are bringing the information into RNA, and this is how we are saying there is your tRNA that is trying to be dominant now, because the DNA depends on RNA just to express the gene. Okay, just to express the gene, DNA depends on RNA. So we are saying at present, so the understanding of RNA dependent processes has become very important for life. Okay, so any doubts you have, let me know. Okay, thank you students.